So I recently received my January book box from Book of the Month, and I realized that I've been subscribing to this box pretty consistently over the last 3 years. So I thought it would be interesting to actually assess whether this has been a successful subscription for me, meaning it is actually worth the money that I am paying for these books, or whether it's not. So this is going to be a mini review of Book of the Month as a subscription box after 3 years of subscribing to the service. Also, this video is not sponsored by Book of the Month, by the way, in case you're wondering. I've never done any sponsors on this channel, mostly because it's so small. So all of my opinions are 100% my own in this video. Not that it wouldn't be if it was sponsored. I'm just throwing that one out there since they do sponsor a lot of YouTube videos. So we're gonna start this video out with some numbers. So here are all of the books that I got because of Book of the Month. There are 64 in total, 31 read books, 33 unread books, and this is including the 3 books that I literally just received in the January box. This equates to about a 50% read percentage, meaning I read about half of the books that I actually received. And of those 31 books that I read, I had 10 5-star books, which is about 30% of the books that I read ended up being 5 stars, 12 4-star books, 8 3-star books, and 1 DNF. I didn't have any 1 or 2-star books, and this is mainly because I generally just end up DNFing any books that are gonna end up being 1 and 2-star books anyway. And of these 33 unread books, 15 of them are on my active TBR, meaning I want to pick up these books sooner rather than later, so probably within the next few months, but if longer than that, then at least within the next year. 10 books that are on my passive TBR, so these are books that I will get to eventually, but maybe not within the next few months or even within the next year. Generally, these are books that I have tried to read in the past but put down for one reason or another, usually just because I'm not in the mood for it, not because I got very far into it at all, but I will be getting to these eventually. And then lastly, I have 8 books that are not on any of my TBRs. That doesn't mean I'm not going to pick these up. That just means it's much less likely that I am going to pick these up. But if I do hear something good about them, then I might get more excited to read them. But as of right now, I'm just not that excited for them. And they honestly might end up being on hauls for me. I know this is a lot, but this was done over a 3-year period of time of being subscribed to Book of the Month the entire time. And honestly, I really don't regret it. Well, except for maybe these. I enjoyed so many of these books, and I feel like a 50% read percentage is pretty good for a subscription box like this, because I've definitely had other subscription boxes that I almost never actually read the books that I got. I think it really does help that you get to choose the books that you get in your Book of the Month subscription versus many other subscription boxes that you don't get to choose the books that you get. That's how I ended up accumulating all of these books. I think when considering whether Book of the Month is worth it, it really depends on the person and how you plan to include these books in your reading. When I first started the subscription, I honestly almost unsubscribed immediately because I wasn't super happy with the book selection. As a mainly sci-fi fantasy book reader, there really aren't that many sci-fi and fantasy books among the Book of the Month selection, and when they are, they're generally not ones that I would pick up immediately anyway. But at the same time, I found that I really love most of the books that I end up getting from the subscription. And a lot of times there are books that are not even on my radar that I end up getting in the subscription that later on I'm really excited to read these books, or books that I didn't get when they first came out in the box, but then later on I'm just like, man, I really want to read this book now. Everyone's talking about it. How you use the subscription really depends on what type of reader you are. Personally, I don't use it for sci-fi fantasy almost at all. I found that I actually half the time get pretty underwhelmed when I'm interested in the concept of the book that I'm getting from this subscription. Instead, for me, it helps me increase my variety of the types of books that I read. So in Book of the Month, I have a tendency to pick books that I probably wouldn't have picked up previously. Generally, if there is a fantasy book on this available, that's probably my go-to. I also get to read different genres with the Book of the Month books that I end up picking up. So thrillers, horrors, contemporary and historical fiction. sometimes even literary fiction, and definitely a whole lot of romance are the genres that I almost exclusively read Book of the Month books from. Well, not romance, but the other ones that I mentioned. Is very rare for me to pick up those types of books elsewhere, but just having those curated and chosen for me ahead of time, I find extremely helpful because I do want to read a wider variety of books, but I usually rely on recommendations on books that are outside of the main genres that I read. And because I don't follow that many people that read outside of the main genres that I read anyway, this is a pretty good tool to find more of those types of books, especially when they're more new and notable, rather than ending up picking up those same books anyway 6 to 12 months later. A really quick note here about audiobooks. Book of the Month recently added audiobooks to their catalog, so you could use your credits or add-ons for both the physical hardcover books or the audiobooks, which I absolutely love audiobooks. So I was actually pretty excited for it when it first started, but they don't have that big of a catalog because it's just the Book of the Month collection that are in audiobooks. The price is not that good that I'll end up getting the audiobooks through Book of the Month, and I personally just like to organize my audiobooks all in one app. I've had multiple apps in the past and it just hasn't worked out. So for me, I personally don't really consider audiobooks when talking about Book of the Month subscriptions. It's not a selling point for me to either keep or start a new Book of the Month subscription. So how does Book of the Month work? Every month, there are 5 books that are announced at the beginning of the month as the books that you could choose from for your box that month. So one book will be the credit for that month, and then you can add up to 4 add-ons. And like I said, they also added audiobooks, so you can choose audiobooks for this as well. So your credit every month is $15.99, and while you can skip months, they still charge you for the credit for that month, but you can use that credit for add-ons. If you don't have a credit for add-ons, then it is $10.99 per each credit. Personally, I think the $15.99 number is not particularly good. I think you can get many of these books elsewhere for $15.99, not have to worry about having like the Book of the Month little label on the books or anything like that. And for audiobooks, $15.99 is pretty much a standard price for like these types of subscriptions. On that side, it's not particularly worth it, especially since even if you skip a month, you're still going to be charged for that month. But what is great is the $10.99 add-ons. That is a fantastic price for most of these books, especially considering most of these books are brand new releases, and of course they're hardcover books. When it comes to like the cost value, if you're getting a lot of add-ons, then yes, I think the Book of the Month subscription is definitely worth it. But if you're getting 12 books or less per year, then the subscription might not be as worth it for you. So that's one thing to consider when thinking about getting a Book of the Month subscription, is if you're going to get more or less than 12 bucks a year. And if you're getting significantly more, because you can go up to 4 add-ons per month in the actual physical box, then what you're getting could actually be a really great value for the price of the add-ons. And to summarize everything that we've talked about today, the short answer of whether Book of the Month is worth it was, for me, yes, it is definitely worth it. It really depends on the person. When it comes to numbers, I think if you're gonna read more than 12 books a year, preferably significantly more, closer to 24 books per year, then this becomes a lot more worth it, at least money-wise. And additionally, if you're looking to expand your reading, then yes, I would definitely recommend Book of the Month for that. On the other hand, if you are looking to read in the same genre that you normally read, or you don't like to collect physical books, then this is probably not the right subscription for you. And that's partially because I found that a lot of the books that are recommended are books that are popular and or potentially going to be very popular, so you'll probably hear about these books anyway, regardless of whether you have the subscription or not. And a lot of times, if you read a lot in a particular genre, the books that are the most popular are not necessarily the books that you want to collect, because they're more mainstream and not necessarily the best that the genre has to offer. At least that's what I found when it comes to sci-fi and fantasy. But like I said, those are not the genres that I necessarily have Book of the Month for. So in the end, I definitely think Book of the Month was worth the subscription, especially when I was reading more like in 2019. But in 2022 and 2023, when I was reading a lot less, it was probably not worth the money that I spent on it. And because of that, I'm honestly considering unsubscribing, but I haven't fully decided yet because the more recent months that I've gotten, I have really enjoyed the selections that they've chosen. So I'm gonna hold it out for a little bit longer, especially since I am reading a lot more in 2024. That is all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I post videos on Tuesdays and Saturdays, so consider subscribing. And I occasionally post bonus videos, so if you'd like to be notified as soon as I upload, you should click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!